Alright, believe we're good to go here. Yes, we are live. Alright, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you happen to, we want to welcome you here to Qatar Racing Losail for round 12 of 16 in the 2023 ARC European Series. Should be a good one today, of course. Plenty of drivers getting lots of practice on this track, so should be seeing minimal incidents today, and strategies may be reflecting that. Not many drivers planning necessarily for a safety car as well, being the fact that have a bit of a reduced grid today. Only 10 drivers making it to the field for the start of this race. So every position will be a point scoring position. There is all to fight for here. However, this track, of course, being such a driver favorite, many who race here always tout the smoothness of the track and just kind of the flow of each corner. A lot of drivers have a lot of fun racing on Losail. So, hoping to see that shine through more than anything today. Round 12 of 16 as mentioned, so we are now in the latter stages of the season. And at this point, I mean, it is Cameron Lopez's series to lose, clearing away, leading the Drivers' Championship at the moment with 121 points. Next closest driver to him, P2 in the Drivers' Championship, is Astunic Gaming with 87, tied, of course, with Kyler Boggs as well with 87 points. So that should be interesting. Will also P4 currently in the Drivers' Championship with 80 points, only 7 points behind that of Astunic and Kyler Boggs, so lots left on the table to fight for here. A few laps starting to come across the timing board now, that of Cameron Lopez, Carter Ritchie, and Kyler Boggs, the best of the three being Lopez thus far. Still plenty of time left in the session though, of course. Expecting to see pole times in the probably mid to upper 121s, probably a 121.7 if I were to take a wild guess here. I've not been following along with much of the practice that's been going on with these drivers, but I feel confident saying that that is probably a time we can expect to see up on the board at some point, maybe even the best. So only 4 drivers thus far putting a lap up, and we are seeing 22s. Looks like Kyler Boggs may have had to back out a bit towards the end of his lap, as he only comes across with the 124.4. Definitely has the pace to improve upon that, so we will be looking for him to do so probably on his next time out. A few drivers on the grid tonight that are new to the series as well, so I apologize if there's any inconsistency with the names and whatnot. I'm going to be referring to them as Matt, currently P4 in the Haas. We have Max in the other Haas, and Luigi in a Mercedes for this week. Next to put up a time looks like will be the AlphaTauri of Manx Joy. Believe that's Patrice. Patrice coming across with the 124.3. And again, that is a time that he will be looking to improve upon to some extent from there, I can only imagine. Yellow's out very quickly in sectors 1 and 3 as it looks like somebody may have gone a little bit wide, had a bit of an off, but nothing serious it looks like. So there you have it, folks. The grid is set. I apologize. I believe I was on mute for quite a bit there, but it is Cameron Lopez taking pole position with Kyler Boggs sharing the front row with him. Carter Ritchie and Luigi will take the second row, and we are good to go here at Losail. I believe we will be foregoing the formation lap here as well. Just kind of been having issues with it as far as the game is concerned the last few times we've attempted to run it, so I believe we've elected to just not do so at all. So we should be off and running with lights out as soon as everybody's able to make it into the lobby here. Lopez looking to extend his run of dominance over the grid this season, as mentioned at the top of the broadcast, running away with the Drivers' Championship at this point. The next closest competitor, 34 points behind him, so no chance of a shakeup at the top of the board here in this race. Just waiting for the last few to trickle their way into the lobby here, the in-between loading time of qualifying and the actual Grand Prix, of course. So here we have it. It'll be 10 drivers on the grid, I do believe. So every position will be a points-paying position here. Lots on the table to race for. Lots of points up for grabs. And as we look down the rest of the Drivers' Championship running order, as mentioned, we have a tie for P2. So that'll be interesting, as we have 5 lights on now. And it is lights out and away we go from here at Losail. Cameron Lopez getting a decent start. Moving over to cut off Kyler Boggs, who also has himself an even better start. But it is Cameron Lopez getting the better line through there and will maintain the lead of this race. Luigi losing out already to Matt for P4. Some shaking up going down back the rest of the grid. Luigi getting P5 even. Fighting with Carbine Con there for the position for a moment. And it looks like we have our running order for the time being. Max and the Haas right up into the back of... Who is that? Oh, and we have a major incident at the back of the grid, unfortunately. That will be, I believe, Will Racing and H. Collins and Vex all getting into each other. And A Student Gaming just nowhere to be found. Not sure what's going on there with that Red Bull. But just completely off the back of the grid. Missing a front wing as well, unfortunately. So it'll be a bit of a redemption drive there. So, virtual safety car already deployed. Only took about 2.5 corners for that to be the case. Of course, way too early for anything to be made of it, as we are quickly back to green. Very quick debris cleanup, it looks like. Lopez off and running. The gap to P2 of Kyler already growing to nearly a second. However, the Haas of Matt and Carter Ritchie racing real hard for that final podium position, as Matt pulls out and makes the move on the Red Bull. Tucks right back in behind that one Porchy dude for P3 of this race at the moment. And it looks like we have our running order somewhat set. Until DRS is activated, we should not be seeing very much shakeup in the running order, unless, of course, somebody has another incident. Few drivers ducking into the pits, can only imagine, for some early damage repair. And I mean, it's what a shame. If you're one of these 3 drivers, you know that your afternoon is entirely compromised at this point. Looks like we actually have 12 drivers on the grid, not 10, my apologies. So there will be 2 positions raced today that will not score any points. And unfortunately, it looks like these back 3 will be fighting for that last point scoring position, P10, and really not much more. Just sloppy work on the first lap, of course, but I mean, fortunately it was only a few drivers and not a big one by any means. So yeah, not much action here to call upon, must say. Race really settling out here on the 3rd lap only. Gaps starting to form among the field with those that clearly have it this week and those that do not. Decent fight here for the P6 position between Max and Carbine Con. And the first penalty assessment, unfortunately, will go to the Red Bull of Carter Ritchie. Some sloppy driving on his part as well. Only took 4 laps to incur the first track limits violation. I'm sure we will see plenty more trickle in as this race develops. But the hallmark thus far should be, of course, just sloppy driving. Nothing really to write home about thus far. However, Carter Ritchie has done well to close the gap somewhat to Matt in the Haas, currently racing P3. The gap in the lead just ever growing, though, as Cameron Lopez has already pulled out 2 seconds just about to Kyler Boggs. VSC out quickly after the restart. Unfortunately, it looks like we may have had a crash out from the Williams of Vex. And just when you thought we were good to go, we are not. Really riveting stuff here as we are under another safety car related incident. And this race is just going to be one of attrition, if nothing else. I can't assume that at this rate, we will be seeing very many drivers actually finish this race. Sloppy all around since the start. I mean, even through just the first few corners, it's just been downhill since. We are back under green, a quick VSC, and Luigi is off and running with Carbrine Khan and the Alfa Romeo of Kyler Boggs close in tow. Kyler looking to make the move up the inside of the Williams here, and he does so for the P2 position. However, with the inside line, there is Carbrine Khan, able to get the spot right back. Kyler making the move here on Luigi for the lead of the race, but it is Cameron Lopez getting the better of both of them with a real smooth move with the DRS assistance. Up into the lead he will go. Hoping, praying here on this lap that we will stay green all the way around. Of course, this would be the, I believe, third full lap of this Grand Prix where we have not had any yellow flags or safety car incidents. So can only hope that that will be the case here. Oh, and it looks like we have a unexpected retirement of sorts. Not sure what's going on with the Haas of Matt. Currently in the final podium position, P3 he's racing. Was notified, as you probably saw, that he's left the session. However, his car is not ghosted, so it's kind of unclear what's going on there. I'll wait for some confirmation on that, as we see Will making the move on teammate Luigi for P4. As well as Astunik making the move on Max, the Haas, for the P6 position. Max picking up a penalty, trying to fight his way back for that position, unfortunately. The only two drivers on the grid currently sitting on penalty time. These two right here. Oh, not sure what just happened there, as Will is now ahead of that Haas, who is in an unclear position. Not sure if that is a human racing that car or the game. Gaps starting to form here and there across the grid. Only a few drivers in DRS distance of one another. That being, of course, Kyler Boggs currently fighting for the lead of this race, as well as Luigi in P5, racing a... not clear what that is, of course. However, Matt, looking to make a move here on Will, does so, but it's Luigi getting the better line through there, and oh, slowing down as he's kind of overdrove the corner, ends up directly in the way of teammate Will. And is there enough here for Kyler to make the move? It does not look like it'll be so. Lopez doing very well to maintain his lead of this race thus far. But at this point, it is really just down to these two. Taking a look now at the compounds in the age of everybody's tires. Let's see, we've got some drivers that started this race on medium compound tires, and Carbreen Khan, currently P10, started on his hard compound tires, yet to pit. Looking now, Luigi also yet to pit, it seems, as well as Max, P7 in the Haas. Oh, and the next penalty to be assessed here will be another track limits violation, this time going to Will, currently in P5, and losing out to, it looks like, a Stunek, but quickly getting the position back. A big twitch there from the Red Bull, however, does have the inside line through here. Will, though, cleanly making his way and maintaining his P5 position through there. And of course, these two are only separated in the championship by 7 points, so plenty on the table here, as it'll be another track limits violation for the Red Bull of a Stunek and another 3 seconds added to the penalty time. Plenty of race left though, of course, about 13.5 laps, so will only prove detrimental once we get into the final portion of this race. And another 3 seconds also added on to the time of the Haas of Max, unfortunately. Kyler now dropping about a second and a half off of Cameron Lopez, currently in the lead of this race. They were within about 7 or 8 tenths of each other for the last few laps, however. Kyler now seeming to drop some time. And this current battle for P5 is the only battle on the grid where drivers are within DRS range of each other. Gaps starting to form throughout the rest of the grid, everybody finding their pace and finding their groove. Oh, and a big twitch there from Will. Unfortunately, he's going to lose out on that corner exit to Bill. Still within a second, if only for a moment, now dropping time. He's 1.2 behind. He will be out of DRS range coming down the start-finish straight. But ducking into the pits will be the Mercedes and the Red Bull of Luigi and Billy, as Will just cruises on by. Probably looking to make the undercut are those two. Up into P4 though goes Will with a chance to race for that final podium position. And the gap growing ever larger here between the lead of this race and the one chasing him. Kyler now nearly 4 seconds off of Cameron Lopez for the lead of this race. Few more drivers ducking into the pits here. It will be Will and Max. Probably looking for an early stop as they reach the end of their stints. And it looks like the undercut by Luigi and Billy there in the Red Bull seems to have paid off to some extent. The gap now 3.5 seconds to Will. But Billy with all to play for here, right up into the back of the McLaren of H. Collins, and he will look up the inside. Oh, gets rather close. No contact, but has himself a spin on corner exit. Just got his tires a little too dirty, it looks like. Quickly pulls back out onto the track. Looks to be keeping out of the way well enough. And he will be racing from P10 at the moment, unfortunately also picking up the track limits violations for his troubles. Oh, and just an unfortunate moment there for the Red Bull. The undercut had seemed to have worked out so well, at least to the Mercedes that he had been racing. However, just a little too dirty on that corner exit and pays the price for it. Will now be looking to make up any positions he can, as he does so very quickly, weaving his way right through Max and Carburetor Khan, looking for that P8 position, however, being held up for the moment. Oh, and unsure if there was some contact there into turn one, but the Haas getting the best line of the bunch, currently in that P8 position that Billy was fighting Carburetor Khan for originally, but right up into the back of that Haas is the Red Bull. And it will be another track limits violation as well for that P10 Williams. And all to play for here, as the gap to the lead of this race has now grown to about 5.5 seconds by the time that Kyler decided to duck into the pits there. He will be on the soft compound tires for the remainder of this race, presumably. Lopez electing to take the hards his last time through the pits, so he may be free and clear to run till the end here, and at this point, I can't see how it is anybody else's race to lose. Not much competition besides Kyler for the majority of it, but even so, we were seeing some quick drop-off in time by that Alfa Romeo, struggling with those late-life tires, now onto a fresh set of softs, and basically he's been released. A track limits violation being assessed here too. I believe that is the... who just picked it up? Was it Luigi, I believe, in the Mercedes? Taking a look now on the time that they're all sitting on for penalties, and it's quite significant. Luigi picking up only his first track limits violation, but Will already sitting on 2, as well as Max. And then Billy, unfortunately, with 4 track limits violations, it looks like, thus far tonight, sitting on that 12-second time penalty. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, as well as the rest of the penalties up and down the board. It is half the field that is left on track that now has penalties to serve come the end of the race, as the race leader ducks his way into the pits. Cameron Lopez back out now for his final stint, 7 to go. It looks like he has elected to take a fresh set of soft tires as well. Now chasing down the Haas of Matt, who will be, I believe, leading for his first full lap in the Formula One Euro Series here this season. A few more drivers ducking into the pit. It will be Patrice, H. Collins, and Carburetor Khan. See what they elected to go on. It will be the soft compound for the McLaren, as well as, I believe, the AlphaTauri. It is softs, and softs I can only imagine also for this Williams. Serving a penalty there, I believe also. Oh, maybe not. Let's take a look at the penalty time. Yep, still sitting on a 3-second penalty, with 3 seconds of a gap to the car ahead. And that lead of the Haas just quickly being cut into by Lopez on those fresh soft compound tires. On pit exit, the gap was 17 seconds. It is now down to about 8, as Kyler sets a fastest lap here on lap 23. And now there's much more to play for Kyler specifically, as The gap on pit was about 5.5, 6 seconds, but now it's down to about 4.5 seconds, and of course laying down purple laps. However, Cameron Lopez laying down a purple Sector 1 there as soon as I mention it. So this will be interesting one way or the other. However, that gap of 4.5 seconds is quite daunting still for the Alfa Romeo. Already eating now 2 seconds into the lead of the Haas, just in the span of about 8 corners or so. Now under 6 seconds is the gap. So now it looks like 7 of 10 drivers currently with penalty time to serve come the end of this race, and I feel like things will get rather quick here. The gap now to the lead of this race under 3.5 seconds. Lopez just really hauling it here on those fresh soft compound tires, of course, with the Haas electing to stay out. And it's really all to play for. About 4.5 laps left to race. Oh, and it will be a penalty incurred there for the Aston of Cameron Lopez. Another one bites the dust, more or less. There are only 2 drivers left on track at the moment that have not incurred penalties. And that may be detrimental come the end of this race, however. Interesting to note that the gap to Kyler, currently P3, trying to chase down Cameron Lopez, is only ever growing. So now under a second is the gap to the lead of this race. Cameron Lopez really just turning it on here. The Haas of Matt, not much that can be done. Oh, and they get into each other. Oh my goodness. Lopez recovering well, but it looks like the Haas just also recovering well. I'm sorry, I thought that I saw the Haas spin, but got very sideways, however. Did not lose out because of it, and now I think we see Cameron Lopez moving over to make space, understanding the situation. Maybe just out of respect, knowing that that may have been avoidable to some extent, but will have the DRS here and looks up the inside of the Haas, and it is an easy move. Here on racing lap number 26, it will be Lopez back up into the lead of this here Grand Prix. But of course, all this trouble between the two of them has pulled Kyler back into this fight to some extent. The gap between Lopez and Kyler at one point, about 7 seconds recently, now down to about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. And the Haas doing well to stick with Lopez. Also, it should be noted, on those older medium compound tires, as Cameron Lopez is really just off and running with his fresh set of soft compound tires, as well as Kyler right behind. Quickly re-establishing himself in this race. He's now within 1 second of the lead of it. And at this point, I feel like this race is still entirely up for grabs, as we haven't seen Lopez really run away with it once taking the lead, as may have been expected. These three really fighting it out. And it could be anybody's with enough of a chance. Kyler taking a peek up the inside, around the outside he'll go, wheel to wheel with the Aston. And it looks like he will have the lead of this race after that great move. Getting side by side, showing no fear. And absolutely just hauling it. The fastest man on track for the previous few laps, easily. Off and running with it at this point. We'll be taking 2 laps to go the next time over the line. And in an interesting turn at this point, it is Lopez who will have to do his best to keep up with that alpha of Kyler Boggs. Taking a peek up the inside with the DRS assistance and easily has it. Oh, and there's contact between them as Kyler runs into the back of the Aston and loses, it looks like, his right end plate on the front wing. Entirely compromising his chances here, unfortunately. It looks like that'll be the case. And of course, compromise. Oh my goodness. Right into the back of that Aston Martin he'll go, and that is... I mean, that may be just egregious. I'm not too sure what was going on there, but... we will stay green here on lap 28 of 29. Lopez getting himself a penalty, and it looks like Kyler also spinning out the Haas of Matt there. Down to P3 he'll go. And then making space? I'm not too sure what's going on here. Quickly pulling over to let Lopez back into the lead of this race. Really interesting turn of events here, as that Alfa Romeo is now without a front wing. And losing out on all of it is the Haas, unfortunately. Lopez in the lead for the moment. Unclear what damage he may have incurred through all of that. It looks like he's missing his left front end plate. And oh, what a strange turn of events here. On the final lap, and there's really just no chance at anybody having a strike at the lead of this race at this point. And I don't really know what to say about what just happened there. Kyler was just sort of a bowling ball, just knocking first the Aston out of his way, and then very quickly the Haas also. Loses his front wing for the trouble, but also pulled over to allow the Aston back into the lead of the race. A strange twist of events that we will have to look back on. Plenty of reports and appeals yet to come, of course. Also, given the fact that there is only one driver left on track that is yet to incur a penalty, a time penalty that is, of any type. And now losing out on the final podium position to the Mercedes of Luigi, who's just storming up, and he will have this position on the Alfa Romeo pretty easily, it looks like. A lack of downforce without the front wing, and that'll mean a lost position there for the Alfa of Kyler Boggs. So over the line goes Cameron Lopez for a win here at Losail. And taking the second podium position will be Luigi, with Kyler close behind. Oh my goodness, and what a race we have here. After penalty assessments, though, it will be the Haas of Matt back up onto the podium. Kyler losing out by 6/1000ths of a second. Oh my goodness. So P4 it will be for that Alpha after those late incidents and strange turns of events. Will getting P5 in the Mercedes, and Max, teammate of Matt, in the other Haas, will get P6. Carbreen Khan holding on for P7, and Patrice getting P8 out of it. Unfortunately, it'll be P9 and P10 for Astunik and H. Collins alike. Fortunately, though, all racing positions here today were point-scoring positions, of course. But it is Cameron Lopez just out of nowhere, it seemed. Come the end of the race, it looked like Kyler, was really hauling the mail and was going to be the one to beat, but a strange turn of events, if nothing else. I still don't really know what to make of it myself. It will be Lopez back up onto the top step, though, and really just running away with the championship at this point. However, Kyler being able to hold on for, I believe, P4 puts him solidly ahead of Billy for P2 in the championship. They were tied at 87 points apiece coming into this race. However, a big haul for Kyler and a bit of a poor showing there from Billy will mean that there is a clear separation there in the championship. Will also doing what he can to make up his spot in the championship to both Kyler and Billy. Only 7 points behind coming into this race. But it'll be a clean sweep for Lopez. The pole position, the fastest lap, and the win, moving him quite solidly ahead in the championship. Quite comfortably in first place he is. Luigi, though, out of nowhere it seems, getting that P2 finish, just kind of getting the advantage on the drivers that were caught up in incidents ahead of him. Matt holding on for P3 and Kyler falling to P4 after the penalty assessments. Will come home in P5, and Max and Carbreen Khan will take P6s and 7. Patrice Loisel gets P8, and it'll be Billy in P9. Final point scoring position going to H. Collins, with Vex and Carter Ritchie being the retirements of this Grand Prix. Well, that'll do it from here, folks. We want to thank you for tuning in, if you did, to another ARC broadcast, and make sure you catch some of the other ones that'll be going on this week. That'll do it from here.